Hello, this is Dave Harden. Welcome to the Deep Dive podcast about my new book, An Electric Trilogy, Engaging Users in the Evolution of Energy. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something that's, well, absolutely essential to modern life, but we maybe don't think about it much. The electric power grid.
That's right. It's this incredibly complex system, and the sources we're looking at today, including this multi-part book, An Electric Trilogy, they really take us on a journey.
Yeah, from the massive scale of the whole thing, right down to, well, your experience and how you fit into where it's all heading.
Exactly. So our mission really is to unpack these sources. We want to understand how this intricate system works, what the big challenges are right now.
And there's some big ones.
Oh, definitely. Plus, the exciting innovations coming down the pike, and maybe most importantly, your role. What part can you play in shaping its future?
And, this stuff connects in ways you might not expect, like how flicking a switch links up to global sustainability goals.
Or how your home's air conditioner could maybe become part of a virtual power plant. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Should be some interesting connections, maybe some aha moments. Okay, let's dig into the sources.
Let's start right at the foundation. The sources remind us electricity isn't just, a commodity. It's this fundamental energy form. It's incredibly versatile.
It literally holds the world together, right? Electrical force.
Basically, yeah. And you can generate it from almost anything. Fossil fuels, nuclear, wind, solar, you name it. Then convert it into light, heat, motion, whatever we need. It's the lifeblood.
And the grid delivering it.
Yeah.
Often called the largest machine on Earth. I mean, the scale is just hard to grasp. Power plants, thousands of miles of lines, substations.
It's staggering, and the sources really stress this constant, incredibly delicate balancing act. Generation has to exactly match consumption everywhere, every second.
That real-time balance.
Yeah.
It's critical, isn't it?
Absolutely crucial. If it's even slightly off, too much generation or too much demand, the frequency wobbles and you risk, cascading failures, blackout spreading.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. It's like this huge, intricate dance that just never stops.
So how do they manage that dance? The sources mention the U.S. grid structure, these three big regions, East, West, and Texas.
That's right. 3 large interconnections. And within those, you have these entities called balancing authorities.
Right.
Their job is keeping supply and demand perfectly matched in their specific zone.
Okay. And then the local utilities, the distribution companies, they handle the final step to our homes.
Yep. They get the power to, over 165 million meters in the U.S. It's a massive operation.
And the journey of the power itself, it's basically 3 stages.
3 main stages, yeah. First is generation, making the electricity using coal, gas, nuclear, hydro, and, increasingly wind and solar.
Then it travels long distances on those big transmission lines. High voltage lines.
And the sources explain why high voltage is key there. It cuts down energy losses dramatically.
Right. Higher voltage means lower current for the same power, so less energy wasted as heat in the wires. Makes sense.
Precisely. That's the transmission stage. Then finally, distribution. Local substations step the voltage way down to safe levels for homes and businesses.
So generation, transmission, distribution. Gets it from the power plant to your plug.
That's the flow. And the sources point out something cool. The core principle for most generation, except solar, is electromagnetic induction, spinning a magnet in your wires.
And they connect that to rock and roll. Electric guitars, amps, same basic physics.
It powers everything. But back to that balancing act, it's such a challenge because traditionally, you couldn't really store large amounts of electricity easily. It had to be used the instant it was made.
So you need constant monitoring, constant adjustments.
Yeah, operators and control centers watching screens 24/7. The sources mentioned PJM as an example, a huge regional transmission organization. They coordinate the wholesale market for 65 million people, keeping the lights on across a massive area.
Okay, so that's the system, this incredible, complex machine. But as we said, it's facing some pretty serious challenges now. Age is a big one, right?
Huge. A lot of the grid infrastructure, transformers, lines, it's decades old, often running way past its original expected lifespan.
Which means more maintenance, more potential failures, and upgrades are expensive and tricky.
Exactly. And as older plants, like coal plants, retire, you can run into capacity shortages. The sources mention that 2024 PJM auction example.
Where prices spiked.
Yeah, it jumped 9-fold for future capacity.
Yeah.
That signals a real tightening, and eventually that cost finds its way to, you, the customer.
And then there's extreme weather. which seems to be getting worse.
Undeniably.
Yeah.
Climate change is intensifying things. More hurricanes, wildfires, heat waves, droughts, all putting incredible physical stress on the grid.
Flooding substations, power lines, starting fires.
Right. And sometimes utilities have to proactively shut off power in risky areas to prevent wildfires.
Yeah.
Those public safety power shutoffs, necessary but disruptive.
Another big one the sources talk about is integrating renewables. Wind and solar. Essential for clean energy, but tricky.
Very tricky. They're intermittent, right? Sun doesn't shine at night, wind doesn't always blow. Plus, the best spots for wind or solar farms are often miles away from cities where the power's needed.
So you need more transmission lines built.
Lots of them. And the other key piece missing, largely, is cost-effective, large-scale energy storage. That's a major bottleneck for renewables.
And as everything gets more connected, more digital, cybersecurity becomes a worry.
A massive worry. These control systems, some designed decades ago without security really in mind, they become targets. It's a real vulnerability.
Plus, demand is going up. EVs, AI, data centers.
Yeah, new loads are adding pressure. Electric vehicles need charging. AI needs these huge, power-hungry data centers. So you add all these challenges up.
Aging infrastructure, extreme weather, renewables integration, cyber threats, rising demand.
And it's clear the grid is at a turning point. The sources say the future grid has to be more resilient, more secure, flexible, adaptive. It needs a whole system approach, everyone involved.
Okay, so the challenges are clear. The need for change is urgent. What about the solutions? What innovations are the sources pointing to?
Well, one big shift is in how the grid is controlled, moving away from purely top-down centralized management.
Towards something more
Yeah.
distributed.
Exactly. They call it supervisory distributed control. Sharing responsibilities more among local or regional players. It allows for more adaptability, especially with all those distributed resources popping up.
Like regional control centers coordinating more.
Sort of. An emerging model is better coordination between the transmission system operators, the TSOs running the big lines, and the distribution system operators, the DSOs managing local networks. They need to talk, share data, coordinate actions for more localized control.
Makes sense of generations becoming more local, too.
Which it is. It's not just giant power plants anymore. Offshore wind is getting smarter, maybe even camouflage. Solar is everywhere, built into buildings, higher efficiency materials coming.
And advanced nuclear, small modular reactors.
Yep, SMRs are a big focus, compact, factory-built, potentially quicker and cheaper to deploy, plus other advanced designs. Enhanced geothermal, better hydro, bioenergy, generation is diversifying, getting smaller, closer to us.
But for renewables like wind and solar, you mentioned storage is key. That unlocks their potential, right?
Absolutely essential. It smooths out the intermittency. The sources cover different types. Batteries are huge, obviously. Lithium-ion for short bursts, flow batteries for longer durations, maybe solid state coming soon.
Yeah, and other kinds. Mechanical, thermal.
Yeah, pumped hydro is the classic, using cheap power to pump water uphill, then letting it run down through turbines when needed. Compressed air storage. Thermal storage, using things like molten salt to hold heat.
And storage does more than just cover gaps, right? It helps the whole system.
Definitely. Reduces the need for those expensive, often dirty peaker plants that only run a few hours a year during peak demand. Cuts emissions. It's a linchpin technology.
Another huge area is the smart grid, making the grid digital automated.
Right. Advanced metering infrastructure, AMI, or smart meters is a big part of that, real-time data on usage.
Good for the utility, finding outages faster, but also good for you, the customer.
Yeah, you can actually see your usage patterns, make informed choices, and it enables two-way communication.
So not just power flowing to you, but information, maybe even power from you going back.
Exactly. Selling excess solar back, or the utility sending signals to smart devices in your home, and automation makes the grid more resilient. Self-healing systems.
Like if a tree falls on a line.
The system can automatically detect the fault, isolate that section, and reroute power around it. Minimizes the outage impact. Pretty smart stuff.
This ties into distributed energy resources, DRs, rooftop solar, home batteries, EVs, all that stuff near the customer.
Yep. And the challenge is integrating all these small, sometimes intermittent resources into a grid built for big central power plants.
The sources use the term grid edge for that, where the traditional grid meets these DRs.
That's the interface, where homes and businesses become active players, not just passive consumers. And if you aggregate these DRs, bundle them into, say, energy clusters, they become more predictable, more useful to the grid operator.
And that idea of local control brings up microgrids, little self-sufficient networks.
Exactly. Local generation, local storage. Their killer feature is island mode.
Meaning they can disconnect from the main grid if it goes down.
And keep running independently, powering critical loads, hospitals, fire stations, maybe a whole community center or neighborhood. Huge for resilience, especially in remote areas or places hit hard by storms.
Okay, one more big innovation. The source is stress. Changing how we use power, not just how we make it. Demand response and flexible loads.
This is transformative. Instead of always building more supply to meet the highest peak demand, let's manage the demand itself. Load flexibility.
The grid's ability to adjust consumption based on conditions.
Exactly. Based on price or grid stress, or maybe when renewables are abundant. It reduces strain, helps prevent blackouts, cuts costs, lowers emissions. It's incredibly valuable.
And the tools are demand response DR and dynamic pricing DP.
Right. DR programs give you incentives to temporarily reduce or shift your usage, like getting a credit for letting the utility nudge your smart thermostat up a degree during a heatwave peak.
And dynamic pricing uses price signals, like time of use rates.
Yeah, making electricity cheaper at night or on weekends encourages you to shift things like EV charging or running the dishwasher to those off-peak times. Save money, help the grid.
And this isn't just for big factories anymore, right? It's moving towards homes.
Absolutely. Moving from manual calls to big users towards automated adjustments of smaller loads, thermostats, water heaters, EV chargers aggregated across thousands of homes. That's the virtual power plant idea again. So many homes acting together make a big difference.
Okay, wow. So complex system, big challenges, but also a whole suite of really cool innovations. But technology isn't enough, is it? People are key. Policy, communities, individuals, you.
Absolutely central. Policy and regulation funding, that's the framework. It dictates how fast we adopt these innovations, and it's happening at all levels.
Federal, state, local.
Yeah, federal deals with big infrastructure, wholesale markets, environmental rules. State regulators like public utility commissions or PUCs are huge. They oversee the utilities most people use, set rates, approve projects, make rules for connecting solar.
And local governments handle things like zoning for projects, building codes.
Right. So coordination is vital. And those PUCs have immense influence. Policies like renewable portfolio standards forcing utilities to use more clean energy or net metering for rooftop solar, they really drive change.
Man-side management policies, too, promoting that demand response and dynamic pricing stuff. Cheaper than building new power plants sometimes.
Often much cheaper. And funding comes through rates, but also new models are emerging, like performance-based regulation, rewarding utilities for outcomes, reliability, cutting carbon, customer satisfaction, not just for spending money on infrastructure.
And importantly, the sources say we can influence policy. Public input matters.
Definitely. It's not just utilities and regulators in a room. Lobbying happens, advocacy groups are involved, but public hearings, contacting representatives, joining stakeholder groups, engaged citizens can absolutely shape these decisions. Decarbonization, electrification, community engagement, aligning utility interests with public good. These are the trends policy is pushing.
Beyond policy, there's community action. Grassroots stuff.
Hugely important, often faster and more tailored to local needs. Setting up a community solar garden, running energy efficiency workshops. It gets people involved directly.
Community solar sounds great for renters or people whose roofs aren't suitable. Buy a share, get bill credits.
Exactly. And community microgrids, building local resilience so essential services stay on during outages. Neighborhood energy cooperatives, where residents actually own and run their local utility. More local control, reinvestment.
The case studies you mentioned earlier sounded powerful. Puerto Rico microgrids after the hurricane.
Creating resilience and jobs. Alaska co-ops using wind-diesel hybrids in remote villages.
Brooklyn trying peer-to-peer trading. Greensburg, Kansas, rebuilding sustainably after the tornado.
And the South Australia virtual power plant coordinating thousands of home batteries. It shows this isn't just theory, it's happening.
And the lessons seem to be community leadership is vital. Policy needs to be flexible. You need diverse funding. You need to adapt.
Grid transformation is real, and it's often driven from the ground up. Which brings us back to the individual. You. The sources call residential customers the sleeping giant of load flexibility.
Makes sense. There are so many of us.
Yeah.
And the first step is often just using less.
Hmm.
Efficiency and conservation.
That's usually the cheapest, easiest place to start. Better insulation, Energy Star appliances, LEDs, heat pumps, simple stuff that cuts your usage. Many pay for themselves pretty quickly, plus rebates often help.
Then maybe generating your own power. Rooftop solar.
Yep. And the sources really hammer home the benefit of pairing solar with a battery. Lets you use more of your own solar power, even at night, plus backup during outages.
And the gold standard they mention. Solar plus battery plus an EV that can do vehicle to home. V2H.
Right. That combo basically turns your home into its own resilient microgrid, an intelligent node on the bigger grid.
EVs themselves. They're not just cars anymore. They're potential grid assets.
Huge potential. Smart charging when power is cheap and clean, usually overnight. V2H lets your car power your house in an outage. And the next step, vehicle to grid, V2G, where your car could actually send power back to the grid during peak times.
And you'd get paid for that.
That's the idea. Helping balance the grid with your car battery. It acts like mobile storage, aggregated across many EVs.
And those load flexibility programs we talked about, DR, dynamic pricing, that's where you directly interact with the grid's needs.
Exactly. Getting incentives for letting your thermostat adjust slightly, or just saving money by shifting your appliance use to off-peak times using time of use rates, it flips the script from being a passive consumer to an active participant.
Okay, the potential is clear. But how do you get people involved? How do you bridge that gap between the home and the grid?
Communication is key. The sources stress understanding the what, the why, and crucially, the what's in it for me. People need to see the benefit.
So, simpler language. Avoid the jargon.
Definitely. Forget demand response. Talk about balancing energy use or saving money when the grid is less busy. Tailor it. Some people care about cost, others about carbon.
And showing the impact. Real-time feedback.
Crucial. Apps, displays showing savings, environmental benefits right away, make it tangible. You save $2 delaying the dishwasher. Simple billing. Comparing your usage to neighbors, that motivates people.
Peer pressure, basically, but in a good way.
Yeah, community challenges, trusted messengers, rewards and recognition too, bill credits, badges. Make it feel like a game.
And make it easy to join programs. No complicated signups.
Streamlined enrollment and interoperability is huge. Open standards so different brands of smart devices work together. No vendor lock-in lets third parties create cool services.
So it's about being user-centric. Empathy, easy solutions, trust, convenience.
And a sense of shared purpose, guiding people, incentivizing them, asking, not telling, as the sources put it, that builds real engagement.
And smart home tech is the enabler for a lot of this.
Absolutely. Smart thermostats have a massive impact. Smart plugs kill vampire loads, let you schedule things. Energy monitors give you that real-time view. Smart appliances, smart lighting, EVs, chargers.
Those home energy monitors sound useful, especially if you don't have a smart meter yet.
Yeah, they can bridge that gap, give you granular data now. And again, that solar plus battery plus V2H combo, the home microgrid idea, that's the ultimate for self-sufficiency and flexibility.
And all these individual smart things, when you link them up, that's the virtual power plant, the VPP.
Exactly. Aggregating resources across thousands of homes, thermostats, batteries, EVs, coordinating them with software so they act like one big power plant, providing services to the grid.
Involving an aggregator, the utility, and you, the customer.
Right. Challenges exist, standardization, scaling up, but the potential benefits for grid stability, for integrating renewables, are enormous.
And the sources mention a shift toward whole home VPPs, using meter data instead of controlling devices directly.
Yeah, seems to be a trend. Verifying overall load reduction using utility meter data gives customers more autonomy, focuses on incentives, seen as having higher grid value, better acceptance, though it needs good real-time meter data access.
Looking further ahead, transactive energy, a two-way market.
That's the vision. Real-time pricing, maybe AI managed, facilitating constant exchanges of power and value between everyone on the grid, right down to your smart fridge.
Wow. Okay, back to engagement, gamification, making energy saving fun.
It sounds a bit strange, maybe, but yeah, turning complex grid needs into concrete games or challenges. Competition, feedback, shared goals. It can make saving energy tangible and build collective action.
The sources describe a proof of concept, Current for carbon.
Yeah, an open source power flexibility game. The basic idea, when the grid needs help, say for 30 minutes, an event starts, participants get notified. They use their smart devices, maybe manually or with scripts, to lower their power usage during that time.
And they get points based on how much they reduced.
Exactly. Points awarded based on the change in their average power use compared to just before the event. And these points, the awards, are logged securely on something like a blockchain ledger.
Tamper-proof, protects privacy, but verifiable.
That's the goal. It uses messaging protocols to communicate. And interestingly, they suggest AI could even trigger these games, analyzing grid conditions and initiating events automatically based on parameters set by grid operators.
Needs trustworthy AI, though.
Absolutely. But it shows how tech smart homes, monitoring secure data, maybe AI can come together to make energy saving engaging, rewarding, and directly helpful to the grid. It empowers people.
So, okay, lots of ideas. How do we put this into practice? Practical tips.
For homeowners, renters, start with the smart devices you have. Thermostat plugs, get familiar with time of use rates if you have them, shift appliance use, EV charging, pre-cool or preheat, automate where you can.
For businesses,
Energy audits are a great start. See where the waste is. Flexible work schedules might help shift load. Engage employees, make it a team effort.
and communities.
Explore those community solar or microgrid options. Run education campaigns. Maybe band together for better deals on solar or efficiency upgrades. Collective bargaining.
And it's not just about saving money, right?
Yeah.
It's reputation resilience.
Big benefits there, too. Shows you're sustainable, forward-thinking, and makes you less vulnerable to outages and pre-spikes.
And don't forget policy advocacy, getting involved locally.
Attend those utility hearings, join local sustainability groups, support innovative rates and programs. Your voice matters.
So the road ahead, it's ongoing transformation.
Requires evolving the network, smart controls, good policies, an adaptable grid using diverse, clean sources.
And collaboration can't happen in silos.
Utilities, regulators, tech companies, communities, individuals, everyone needs to work together. Coordinated planning, embracing new tech like AI and better storage.
But maybe the biggest driver is just collective engagement, all our individual actions adding up.
That's what the sources suggest. The power sector is truly at a crossroads. Technology and user involvement can reshape our whole relationship with electricity, create something better, more resilient, sustainable, user-centric.
We've covered a lot, from the grid's complexity and challenges, through all the innovations, right down to the vital role you play.
It really is a powerful vision of what's achievable.
So the final thought then. Considering the grid is at this crossroads, what's one small step you could take today? Maybe it's using a smart plug differently, shifting when you run the dishwasher, checking out your utilities' time of use options, or just looking up local energy initiatives. What step could you take to become a more active participant in shaping the future of your electric grid?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.